Be sure to subscribe and click on the bell for notifications on future uploads. Hello everyone, Bard here, or you can call me Sully. After reviewing the first Wonder Woman movie last year, and I found it to be serviceable and almost decent, I figured it's best to go over its sequel for Warner Bros. 100th anniversary. And I might as well be one of the very few people who actually have a very different opinion and disagreement about it from others. Released on December 25th, 2020, it's Wonder Woman 1984, or simply marketed as WW84. Director Patty Jenkins has made a decent sequel to the 2017 movie based on the characters from DC Comics and created by William Moulton Marsden, with decent characters, a fine story, and neat action and effects. The story around it, set in 1984, follows Diana Prince, aka Wonder Woman, working in the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C., with a new employee, Barbara Minerva, as they look over artifacts that were stolen in a robbery at a shopping mall, to which Diana had stopped its criminals. And one of these artifacts is called a Dreamstone, that grants wishes to whoever touches it. Diana, and later Barbara, do make their wishes on the stone, and they do come true, with Diana wishing for her past love, Steve Trevor, to return, and Barbara wishing to be like Diana. But a TV personality, named Maxwell Lord, is a fraud when claiming to have oil and wanting to grant people's dreams, which he hasn't and can't. Yet he finds out about the Dreamstone and takes it from Barbara's office, wishing to be the Dreamstone itself. And soon the wishes of Diana, Barbara, and Max end up costing what they value. Diana loses her power, Barbara loses her humanity, and Max's health deteriorates with every wish he grants. And Diana must stop it to either destroy Max or renounce their wishes. When I first saw this film in January 2021 in IMAX, and again in a regular theater on my birthday, I thought the film was alright. That is, it had some weak moments and elements from the comics that felt forced, but it had bigger action, a more simplified story, and I liked it a little more than its predecessor. But now, I found this follow-up to be better than the first film. Not too good, as I have issues with it, but they're pretty minor. The plot is similar to that of The Monkey's Paw, which the film does mention, and there is a more brighter, vibrant, and colorful look to it, with it being set in the 80s, and even presenting trends and topics of the time. Plus, the look and feel of the 80s fits well for a fun yet hyper-realism of the decade. The action is quite nice and on the same vibe as the first film, and some of its humor felt well deserved, especially after the first film, which kept itself serious, where this one's kind of a fun upgrade. Seeing Steve Trevor return and take on a fish out of water persona makes it feel almost wholesome. I say almost because it's Trevor's soul in another man's body, and only Diana can see Steve, and not the guy he's in. But it's nice to see what it's like for a man from 1918 experience 1984 and have some funny bits, from using an exercise bike to get to Diana, to always wearing a fanny pack when changing clothes, to confusing a trash can for art. Even Linda Carter, the original Wonder Woman from the TV show, has a cameo at the end credits, which is nice. Plus, seeing Diana use her lasso in more ways than one is pretty cool, on par with the original film. And Wonder Woman's lasso does more than rope people and get them to tell the truth. It can also show the truth, and Diana uses it to grab a bullet, the air, and swing on a lightning bolt. It's quite neat and amazing. And let me just say that the ending actually left me teary-eyed and nearly crying. And I never experienced that when I initially saw the film. It really got me, and it was quite an achievement for a DC movie to get me involved in it. So yes, there are plenty of things I like about this movie, which leads to the stuff that seems weak, but don't harm the film in the long run. For instance, when Diana runs as Wonder Woman, it looks pretty off in wide shots because it looks like she isn't touching the ground and is basically hovering over it, which looks almost silly. But the golden armor Diana wears to fight Barbara when she becomes Cheetah off-screen, as there's no transition of her into this apex predator, which is one of her wishes to Maxwell, is a bit much. Most notably with the helmet. The wings and body armor is alright and makes for a nice defense, but the helmet was kind of overkill for me. Yes, it's in the comics, but I found it off in the film. And yes, Diana does explain the origin of the armor, but doesn't quite explain how she got it and why. The opening sequence might be one of the most pointless parts of the film, at least from my first viewing as it's never mentioned again, of Diana, as a kid, competing to be a warrior, only to not finish due to cheating by taking a shortcut and missing a few markers while on horseback. Yet thinking about it, it has a bit of a point to it by teaching Diana the importance of truth, and to foreshadow Asteria, the Amazon warrior who first wore the golden armor made from the woman's own armor. There's also Wonder Woman's invisible jet, in which Diana uses her powers to make the jet invisible when she and Steve try to fly and escape security at an airport. At first I felt the invisible jet was kind of forced in, until I looked it up and found that the jet's origin in the comics is all over the place. From being a creation of alien technology to being created by Diana herself. So giving the jet a new origin for this is not too bad given the comics variations. Plus it does show Diana and Steve in the cockpit kinda cleverly rather than how previous versions did it because it would have been too silly. And overall, I quite like it. I wouldn't say it's as jumbled as Batman v Superman or as fun as Justice League 2017, but it's better than the first Wonder Woman film for being more colorful, more fun, and having a simpler story. 2.5 plus or 3 Bugs Bunnies. And that is it. So thank you for joining me. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Facebook or Twitter, support me on Patreon, and until next time for a new video. And thanks for your time.